Warning. The following video contains hardly any lewd themes. Hardly any lewd themes. I thought this was supposed to be a lewd film, Barbarella, and it ain't. And I know some of you lot love your lewd themes, don't you? So don't come into this thinking there's going to be lewd themes, because there really ain't. There's a bit at the beginning, but that's about it. The rest of it, well, we'll come to that, won't we? Yeah. Hey up, Rayvers. We've got a new Superman film coming out very soon, ain't we? So that inspired me to ask the Raytrons, Raytrons over on my Patreon for their superhero-themed suggestions. And we got a few Supermans on there. We had a couple for the original Superman, a couple of Superman sequels and all. But it didn't give us any of them. No, it gave us Barbarella. Barbarella. Oh.
Barbarella psychedelic, there's a kind of cockle shell about you.
Right, now I ain't seen Barbarella. I'd heard lots about it, and I'm vaguely aware that it were lewd. And we're off. Straight away, she's cavorting around in zero gravity as Jane Fonda, whipping a spacesuit off, and she ain't got any smalls on. She's completely starkers. So I'm thinking this is pretty bloody lewd to start with. How lewd is this film going to get if this is the start of it? But I'm also thinking that this music ain't very science fiction-y. It's more like your sort of camp, kitschy sort of music that they had at the beginning of Casino Royale, the 1960s version. And I hated that, thought it were crap. It's exactly the sort of camp, kitsch 1960s that Austin Powers nailed so well. So my first impressions, this looks like it's going to be lewd, but it looks like it's going to be shit. And wrote that Barbarella receives an emergency call from the President of Earth.
Just a minute, I'll slip something on.
Don't trouble yourself. This is an affair of state.
You're the dirty pervert. And he wrote, informs Barbarella that a rogue scientist has created a weapon. But whenever this is set, weapons are a thing of the past. Everybody lives in peace. But there's still some planets out there they're not sure about. You know, if the weapon gets into the wrong hands, they might start a war with it.
You mean they could still be living in a primitive state of neurotic irresponsibility?
Precisely.
Well, that's a bit of topical satire right there, isn't it? And he wrote that Barbarella is tasked with tracking down this rogue scientist.
Have you ever heard of a young scientist named Durand Durand?
Yes?
Well, yes, we've all heard of Durand Durand now, ain't we? Because Durand Durand named the sends after Jiran Jiran, I'm led to believe. So obviously big fans of Barbarella, Durand Durand. Everybody's heard of Durand Durand, haven't they? Everybody's heard of Durand Durand. Apart from Tony Blackburn.
We have a new entry at
Number 26
from Durand Durand.
So Barbarella gets ready to fly across the galaxy to track down Durand Durand. And another thing that struck me, with the decor of her spaceship. Now I'm used to watching science fiction films where the decor in spaceships is quite sparse, quite sort of clinical and clean. Look at that, it's fully carpeted, with a very deep shag. That's going to be a nightmare to keep clean, that. She's going to need some shake and vac.
Do the shake and back and put the freshness back. Do the shake and back and put the freshness back.
Brilliant jingle, that. Everybody still knows it. That must be 50-year-old, that advert. Fantastic. Now, Barb's crash lands on some planet, and after a quick costume change, she bumps into the two girls from The Shining, who promptly knock her out with a snowball and then drag her somewhere on a sledge, pulled by whatever that thing is, to the sound of another kitschy camp piece of music. Now, their destination is a Nackadoo spaceship, which apparently were Durand Durand spaceship. And it's populated by a load of horrible looking kids wearing bloody awful wigs, who promptly tie her up and set a load of bitey dolls on her, who start nibbling her to death and ripping her clothes to pieces. But she's rescued in the nick of time by this bloke wearing a gorilla suit, sans the mask, and these two blokes who look like they're the sort of Dark Knights out of Krull or something awful like that. Now the Eightman carries Barbarella off to his craft, and you can tell it's taken a bit of a shine to her. You can see him ogling her, just with these little glances here and there. I mean, I say ickle glances, but he ain't being gentlemanly letting her go first. No, he's blatantly staring at her arse there. It reminded me of this. So to thank him for taking her back to her ship, Barbarella asks if there's anything she can do for him. And obviously, he wants to have it off with her. Not the weird futuristic way where they take some tablet and then hold hands like that. No, he wants to do it the old-fashioned way. A good old deep shag. Talking of deep shags, look at the rug on this fella. Blink and you wouldn't even realise he'd taken off his ape costume. He needs a bit of this.
Do the shake and back and put the freshness back.
No, you don't see him having it off. You just see his Icecraft swerving all over the shot, accompanied by another crappy piece of music. Now, we're about 25 minutes into the film here, and I'm thinking, bloody hell, this is shit. Jane Fonda's doing her best, but the story is just paper thin, it's just crap. And it ain't even lewd, it's just like a 12-year-old lad's idea of what might be lewd. I don't reckon it were written by a child, I reckon it were written by somebody who were a bit of a fan of the old herbals, you know what I mean? The old psychedelic substances. Because, it ain't my thing at all. So I thought maybe I'd benefit from some herbal intervention. So I made myself a brew with Denise's flashy new cacao, had a couple of Jaffa cakes, and back on it. Now, unfortunately, as much as I enjoyed my refreshments, they did not enhance my viewing experience. Because after the sex ape fixes Barbarella's ship and bids farewell, we just get loads more weirdness. She encounters what looks like an angel wearing a loincloth, played by John Philip Law, who was Sinbad in The Golden Voyage of Sinbad. I'd definitely rather be watching that. She has it off with him. She goes to this weird maze place where all these folk are sort of stuck in the walls and that. I don't know what's going on here. Reminded me a little bit of Zardoz. I don't know why, but just more weirdness. To be fair, they spent a few bob on the sets. They've obviously spent a few bob on that, but they look like sets. They don't look like it's a real planet. You know, it looks very Star Trek-y. It looks like they're just in a studio. And they've obviously spent a few bob on Jane Fonda's costumes as well, because she has costume changes every 5 minutes. Not least because a scriptwriter seems to find lots of reasons to get her out of a costume, such as having these birds peck all her clothes off. Now this started to remind me a bit of that Jane comic strip, what they did, I think they did a TV series of it in the 80s. Well, obviously written by a bloke, he's got this young lady who gets up to adventures every week that inevitably lead to all her clothes coming off and her swanning around in her underpants. You know, blatantly written by a middle-aged bloke who's a bit of a pervert. And this reminded me a bit of that, to be honest with you, because it was just excuses to get Jane Fonda in her underpants. All completely starkers, you know. And I found out this were based on a comic and all. So, yeah, probably written by a similar middle-aged bloke who's a pervert. Now, one of the reasons it's crap is because they'll have a throwaway joke. You know, not that funny. But they'll spend ages labouring the point of this bloody joke. Here she meets David Hemmings, who's dressed like a burlesque Clint Eastwood. And she has that futuristic nookie with him, where they have a tablet and hold hands. And the joke basically seems to be they're a bit dishevelled at the end of it. You know, their hair's all over the shop. But it takes a good 2 minutes. And that might not sound like a long time, but when you're watching a film, you're looking at your watch going, bloody hell, this is boring. 2 minutes is a long time. They could have got the same joke done in 10 seconds. And then give the sends plenty more time to get loads more jokes in. But no, God, it was boring. And in this scene, Durand Durand's got a prisoner in some sort of sex machine that's stimulating all her erogenous zones. And it's supposed to shag her to death, this machine, but the joke is that she breaks the machine. Well, this takes 5 minutes to get to that point. I went for a wee and came back, she was still getting rogered. Oh, crikey. And all that sort of whimsical, camp kitsch 1960s music. Oh, it was just driving me nuts by the end of it. It was just inane, like sort of muzak that you get in a lift in an Arndale centre. Bloody awful. Not catchy, not that you remember. Not like this.
Do the shake and back and put the freshness back. Do the shake and back and put the freshness back.
Okeydoo, on to Ray's ratings. Well, I like my science fiction, as a lot of you know. Jane Fonda, well, yeah, she's gone now, isn't she? But from the bits I'd seen of this, and from what I'd heard, I did expect it to be a load of camp nonsense. So maybe a 2-star film. Now, I forewarned Denise that I was going to be watching this, because I thought she'd disapprove, because it was going to be lewd. And she just laughed at me. And now I know why. She knew. She'd seen it. She knew it was shit. So, yeah, I'm sorry if you're one of them folk who are fond of this film. You know, you think it's a cult classic or something like that. I bloody hated it. It was just that sort of weird, trippy 1960s shite. It was very like that Casino Royale, which, as I say, I hated that and all. I think, yeah, it was just childish. It was just really crap. Yeah, bloody awful. Bloody awful. So I'm rating Barbarella a 1-star, 2-star film. Yeah, I'm not getting that hour and a half back, am I? Could have watched Superman. Superman were on the whirly wheel. Could have watched Superman. How's Barbarella even a superhero? What's her superpower? Intergalactic Shagger. In fact, can I give it less than 1 star? Can we knock it down? Can I knock it down a bit more? Yes, there you go, 1/2 star. Although, to be fair, the poster's quite good, isn't it? That makes it look pretty exciting, doesn't it? But it weren't. I was duped. Well, I hope you enjoyed my review of Barbarella Rayvers. I hope you enjoyed it more than I enjoyed watching the bloody thing. And if you did, poke the old like button for me. Give it a good old poke. Not like the sort of poking that Barbarella were doing. No, just a regular one. Yeah. And remember to share any reviews with your mates and subscribe to the channel if you ain't already a subscriber. Very much appreciated. As of them terrific comments you lot keep popping on, thank you so much for them. It make me day reading them. And why not become a Raytron or a Raytron over on our Patreon page? Come and join the community. And you can put your suggestions forward for reviews. Good ones, preferably. I'll pop a link in the description below. But yeah, as well as being able to submit your suggestions for reviews, you get early access, regular brain teaser challenges, monthly podcasts, all sorts of stuff. And if you're a full Raytron, you get a horse and a rider in the annual race night tournament. So yeah, deadline's coming up for that. If you want to be in this year's race night tournament, get yourself signed up as a Raytron. And copyright box permitting, I'll be back with another review for you very soon. So I will see you next time. Okeydoo!